Chapter 3. An Unexpected Encounter. No two nights were ever the same, and word was starting to spread about some freak taking out gangsters in Lower Riven. Instead of striking fear into criminals, it seemed that they viewed his presence as a challenge. They started carrying more firepower, traveled in greater numbers, and the rate of crime had actually increased since Reece began his crusade. It had only been 3 weeks, and he had lost count of the number of cuts and bruises that covered his body. Starting this one-man war on crime, Reece had known it wasn't going to be easy, but now he was beginning to think that it was impossible. He thought he could just take on the gangs, break up the deals, one at a time, chipping away at the corruption. He was wrong. They were after him now, and he didn't know how much longer he could keep this up. Some mornings he could barely roll out of bed after a long night of patrolling the streets. The toll this was taking on his body was almost unbearable. Every time that he asked himself why he did this, why he kept fighting for what seemed to be a lost cause, he remembered. He remembered his uncle lying on the street, gasping for breath after being shot multiple times in what was ruled a random mugging turned homicide. These random acts of violence were common in Lower Riven. Too common. So much so that too many had turned numb toward the news of death. It was the way of life down here in the lower half. Once the last rays of light retreated to darkness over the horizon, that's when it became a free-for-all. The criminals seemed to be given free rein to do what they desired. There was no one to stop them, and the people had long ago resigned themselves to that fact.
Well, at least there was no one to stop them, until now.
A hint of a smile crept across his face as he thought back to the news report broadcasted earlier that day.
Over the past few weeks, there has been someone, or something, coming out at night terrorizing the people of South Riven. The details surrounding just who this masked maniac is, and why they are doing this, are both still unknown. What we do know at this time is that they have put multiple innocent people in the hospital, with blatant disregard for the laws we have in place to protect the people of our great city. We reached out to RCPD Police Commissioner Matthew Thornwall for a comment on what his force is doing about the matter, and he had this to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we are gathering enough evidence to hunt down this freak and bring them to justice, to the people that we are sworn to protect. I have this message for you. We at the RCPD will protect you from any threat that may arise. Have faith in us. Have faith in me. We'll have this matter resolved in no time. Thank you, and good night.
Not only did he have the scum of Riven after him, but now its supposed protectors as well.
Great.
The cops would just be another force working against him in what seemed to now be a losing battle to save this city.
No, please. You can take whatever you want, please. Just let me go.
Without hesitation, Reece sprinted toward the side of the building closest to the source of the voice. Leaping off, he caught the edge of the second-story railing and used it to slow his descent into the alley below. Landing in a crouch, Reece bolted toward the end of the alleyway, blending in with the shadows of the dark night to survey what he was up against. Carefully peering around the corner, he counted 5 guys, all armed with handguns. Seeing that he was outgunned, he knew he would have to rely on his cunning to outmaneuver the heavily armed thugs.
Hey, D, let's bring her in the alley over there and show her a good time.
The man with a big D on the back of his spiked jacket seized the woman's wrist.
You read my mind, my man.
D turned to smile at the helpless girl, revealing his rotting teeth.
No, please. I'll do anything.
That's the spirit, sweetie.
The gang laughed wildly and huddled closer around the woman, dragging her toward the alley Reece was in. All of them had their guns holstered on their hips, customary of the South Street Slicers gang. Reece's plan was to draw them in and take them out quickly before any of them could react fast enough to pull out their guns.
Come on, guys. A little closer.
Reece reached for the shuriken that were tucked away within one of the compartments of his utility belt. Not perfectly balanced, but they'd get the job done. Pulling 3 of them out, he readied the shuriken in one hand and squeezed tightly around the brass knuckles in the other. Reece closed his eyes and drew in a deep breath of the humid summer air. He felt in that moment time beginning to slow down, and he became hyper-aware of everything happening around him. Suddenly jerking around the corner, Reece whipped his right arm forward and sent the shuriken flying. All 3 sank into the chest of the thug closest to Reece, doubling him over, causing him to howl in pain. Before the others knew what was happening, Reece had closed the distance between them. Lunging upward, he silenced the screaming man with a roundhouse kick to the face. The force behind the kick sent the unconscious man flying backward into the rest of the group, staggering them. Taking advantage of the opportunity, he quickly grabbed the nearest thug by the collar, pulled him closer, then simultaneously drove his brass-lined fist into the man's stomach. Wasting no time, Reece picked the winded thug up and threw him toward another one of the goons, sending them both flying through the glass window of the store behind them. A wailing siren pierced the still night, catching everyone off guard. Very few storefronts in Lower Riven were equipped with alarm systems, since the police typically never responded to them anyway. This particular store either had a naive owner, or it served as a front for some extracurricular activities. If the latter were true, then the police would be here soon, so he had to hurry this up. Seeing that the 2 slicers he threw through the window no longer posed a threat, Reece turned to face the remaining 2. One of them had recovered enough to reach for his gun. He had just begun to unholster it before he felt his jaw fracture from the sheer force behind the Vigilante's uppercut. Instantly blacking out, the thug toppled to the ground.
Don't move, or I'll shoot her! I swear, man! I'll do it! Let me go!
The voice came from the youngest-looking member of the gang. A boy, maybe in his early 20s, about the same age as Reece. How different it could have been, Reece thought, if he didn't have the guidance of his uncle. He could have been that boy across from him, joining a gang to find strength in numbers, just trying to survive the cold world he was involuntarily born into.
If you let her go, I'll let you go. Just put the gun down. Release her, and you'll be on your merry way.
The kid tried to look into Reece's eyes, only to see the dark outline of where his face should be, shrouded in shadow underneath the Vigilante's hood.
No! I can't do that! She's coming with...
The punk was cut off by the woman, suddenly swinging her leg backward, driving it straight into his groin. The kid immediately let her go and fell to his knees, grimacing in pain. The woman then pulled out a gun that had been tucked away within her jacket, leveled the barrel with the back of the punk's skull, and pulled the trigger, splattering his brains out right in front of him. The boy's eyes grew wide in his final moments, realizing that his short life had now come to an abrupt end. Reece stood there stunned, trying to wrap his head around what had just happened.
Well, that takes care of him. Now, to take care of you.
Her wicked tone caught Reece even further off guard. She turned toward him, a malicious smile taking shape across her face. Reaching with her free hand into the unzipped top half of her jacket, she ripped out a second gun, aiming both of the firearms at Reece. He could see the woman's fingers begin to apply pressure on the triggers. With nothing to hide behind, Reece leapt sideways toward the alley, feeling several bullets pierce through the air, where he had been standing only a second before. The shot sailed past him but dug into one of the thugs who had regained consciousness, sending him collapsing back to the ground in a now permanent slumber. Upon landing, he pulled out 3 more shuriken from his belt. Fearing that he would be met with more bullets if he took the time to look before he threw, the vigilante hurled the shuriken at where he thought the woman was, then leapt again, this time into the alley. Only one of the projectiles was on target, but the woman shot it down before it even came close to hitting her. After eliminating the threat, she fired one more time at the masked figure, right before he vanished into the alleyway. The single shot grazed Reece's calf, causing blood to steadily stream from the fresh wound.
That all you got, hun? They told me you would be hard to kill, but I think I'll have your head before sunrise.
The assassin ejected the magazines of her guns, reloading with a fresh set of armor-piercing rounds.
Oh, what a payday you'll bring in. I'm just glad I got to you first. How predictable you little wannabe heroes are, falling for the helpless woman act. Why don't you just come out so we can have some fun? Didn't Mama ever tell you that it's not nice to keep a lady waiting?
A hell of a lady you are,
Reece thought while making his way towards several metallic trash cans deep within the alley. His wound was dripping blood, leaving a trail of it that the shooter would surely follow. Injured and low on shuriken, Reece thought of a plan that could change the course of this encounter. The woman sprinted toward the alley, taking cover around the corner. She reached into her jacket again, trading out one of her guns for a small makeup mirror. Opening it, she positioned it to allow her a view inside the alley. Seeing a trail of blood that led toward total darkness, she tucked the mirror back into her jacket and flipped a switch on her handgun. A tiny bulb flickered to life below the barrel, providing a steady stream of light that cut through the darkness.
Gotcha.
She saw that the trail of blood led straight toward a cluster of trash cans. She flipped the switch on her pistol in the opposite direction, replacing the bright white light with a thin red beam. Creeping closer to where the trail of blood ended, she stopped, crouched, and leveled the red beam with the trash can in the center. Taking a deep breath and holding the pistol with both hands, she pushed hard on the trigger several times, moving the gun to a different trash bin before firing each round.
Now!
Reece's instincts propelled him off the second-story fire escape toward the shooter. He was falling right at her while she was busy lighting up the garbage. Just as he was about to take her out, she stopped shooting and rolled out of the way, using her left arm to propel her backward. Landing hard on the concrete where the shooter had been a moment before, Reece pulled out his last two shuriken and launched them straight at the woman. They both sunk deep into her right forearm, causing her to lose her grip on the gun that fell to the ground before her. Taking advantage of the opening, Reece barreled toward his opponent, wrapped her up in both arms, then slammed her toward the ground. They both struggled to gain positioning on the cold concrete, each of them trying to immobilize the other. Suddenly, Reece felt a familiar searing pain. The woman had somehow managed to unsheath a knife and thrust it deep into Reece's side while they wrestled on the ground. Fueled by the rage of his pain, he brought up his fist and slammed it into her jaw. She began laughing wildly.
Come on! Is that all you got?
The assassin continued pushing harder on the knife, sinking it deeper into Reece's side.
Reece sat up on top of her, grabbed her free arm with his left hand and pinned it to the ground. Squeezing hard on the brass knuckles, he strung together a series of blows to her face, each one with more force than the last. She kept laughing while he struck her, mocking him for holding back, until she didn't.
Reece untangled himself from her now limp body and pulled out the knife, wincing at the accompanying pain. Turning the would-be assassin over, he took a pair of handcuffs out of his belt and cuffed her hands together.
Usually I'm not one to hit a lady. But damn. You're no lady.
Making sure the cuffs were on tight, he moved to lean the unconscious woman up against the wall, chiding himself for not getting more information out of her before knocking her out.
Who hired her? Were there others after me? What do they know about me?
For a second, he thought about taking the woman with him to some secluded rooftop where he might get some answers out of her, but he was too weak to do so. The blood was starting to seep through his armor and began dripping down his side, forming a small puddle on the concrete beneath him. Enough time had elapsed that the RCPD would start getting irritated with the beeping red buzzer bugging them about trouble in Lower Riven, to the point where they might finally dispatch some young rookie they weren't particularly fond of. The station was near the border between Upper and Lower Riven, so it wouldn't be long before someone showed up. Reece had to get out of here before they arrived. He was as much their enemy as any criminal this city had to offer. Maybe even more so. The thought of being caught and what they'd do to him in custody forced him to move. Struggling to stay on his feet, Reece made his way deeper into the alleyway. The blood loss was now severe enough that it caused him to feel lightheaded. He desperately tried to balance himself against the rugged, graffiti-covered brick wall while continuing his slow advance. If he could just make it out to the other side, his apartment was right across the street.
You never have to go too far to find some idiots up to no good down here,
Reece thought, trying to distract himself from the pain of the multiple wounds covering his body, both old and new. He had lived in Lower Riven ever since his dad died. On most nights, when he started his sweep of the city, he wouldn't have been out for 5 minutes before he found some group of thugs up to no good. They always traveled in packs, finding strength in numbers. It was a testament to just how littered this city was with criminal garbage. He turned the corner in the narrow, maze-like alleyway and saw the exit, allowing a ghost of a smile to spread across his lips.
Almost there. Just a little bit further. One step after the other.
Always focusing on staying present in the situation, it allowed him to focus on the task at hand. Right now, that task was to survive long enough to get back to his apartment, where he could patch himself up. He was just a few feet away from emerging out of the alley when suddenly his legs gave out, sending him collapsing to the ground.
Damn it. I wasn't strong enough.
With a motion that took all the energy he had left, Reece was able to roll over onto his back, allowing him to look up at the polluted, moonless sky. As he lay on the ground, desperately attempting to hold on to the last vestiges of life, he thought he heard the soft whirring of something approaching from above. In his semi-conscious and dazed state, he thought, for a moment, that it may have been what an angel's wings sounded like. This made Reece feel at peace. He would now finally be able to see his Uncle Jack again. Maybe even his dad, too. To have a chance to tell them all of the things that were left unsaid before they were taken from him. Reece tried to open his eyes, to catch a glimpse of the majestic being that would reunite him with his family, but was unable to, as the warm embrace of unconsciousness finally overtook him.
So, you're the guy who saved me that night, huh? Well, Mr. Sleeveless Hoodie, guess it's time to return the favor.